If you have somewhat of a working brain and an internet connection, and if you've seen the viral Man Enough video in support of Kamala Harris by now, you know that you'll never get that 90 seconds of your life back. And I'm so on behalf of this cringe, horrible ad, Taylor, am so sorry. But also, it is so cringy and it is so bad, but perhaps not exactly for the reason that you think. So, while Elon Musk is sending historic, revolutionary rockets into and back from space, we have this debacle on the internet, okay? And listen, at this point, it's unclear whether or not this piece of garbage was actually formally created and produced by Kamala's team and potential administration, what have you. What we do know is that it was supposed to, right? I mean, like, this is like a Katy Perry feminist trying hard music video falling flat gone wrong 2.0 people, because we know that it was produced by a former producer of Jimmy Kimmel. Okay, who's shocked there? Do I look shocked? Do I? No. Okay, not me. Can't get anything by this blonde bitch. Okay, and it was supposed to be a tongue-in-cheek view and message about masculinity. But babe, none of it worked. Okay. So, first things first that I want to address with this is that conservatives are in this whole debate about whether or not this ad was supposed to be passed off as real. Okay, this is how bad that this is, that we don't even know if this is parody or not, right? But further, there's a whole debate of whether the people, whether it be Kamala Harris or not, behind this ad, were trying to pass it off as real. I am not saying that they were. I do not think that they were passing this off as like detailing the day in the life of men in middle America. I think that it was kind of out there and in the open. It may have even said at some point that these were actors, right? But so there's this whole debate going on with the conservative circles of is this actually a parody because it's literally that cringe? And B, do they think that we're that stupid? Like, is this are they using these actors and passing them off as like what are these method actors, like these D-list method actors, okay, and trying to pass it off as real? So again, want to get that out in the open and kind of set the stage for you that I do not think that the ad, as horrible as it was trying to be passed off as real. That's like in the whole, again, even though the tongue in cheek was failed. Secondly, if you want a lesson in tongue in cheek, just watch this show, okay? Look no further, and guess what? You get the advice for free, okay? You don't need some washed up Jimmy Kimmel lame ass ex producer. But before I kind of peel this back, I also want to acknowledge that listen, I'm no Dr. Ruth, okay? I'm no, call her daddy with a softball Kamala interview. Like, oops, my bad. Oops, I did it again. But this is a topic that I've explored often, right? Even in my past as a red carpet and entertainment journalist, I talked to huge actors about this idea of men and their identity and masculinity. Everybody from, Milo Ventimiglia to Chase Crawford, if you watch The Boys. So this is something that, and listen, in light of this dumpster fire, I don't know if Hollywood is the best gauge of masculinity, right? But all that to say, talking to high profile and influential people about their take on it, right? Because there has been this sort of culture war about what it means to be a man and masculinity and all this. And, the Chase Crawfords of the world, they're just like me and you, and he's fucking hot. So I'm gonna listen to what he has to say now. With that said, I think what is so bad about this is how off and how cheesy. Again, despite infiltrating SAG, post strikes to get these people, how often cheesy this messaging is and how it's supposed to actually speak to men and what real men are and get in the hearts and minds of the men of America, right? So it shows all of these guys, and they're saying things like, I'm a real man, I drink my bourbon neat, I cook my steak rare, I ain't afraid of bears. Like, what?
I ain't afraid of bears. That's what bear hugs are for.
They may as well be like, I skin a deer and eat it live. Like, just all of these really cheesy tropes, cliches, stereotypes about what they think that men are. You've seen men, like, this is where this shit was just like the belly flop of our time of the Olympics that we never saw coming, because I feel like men across on both sides across the aisle are like, what the fuck is this? Like, nobody asked. And then it says things like, I deadlift 500, yada, yada. But then it's like, I also, braid the shit out of my daughter's hair.
And enough to deadlift 500, then braid the out of my daughter's hair.
It's like, okay, first of all, are you racist? Because this is coming from a black guy. So I need to know, like, the people are asking for a friend, is this ex-producer of Jimmy Kimmel a black guy or not? Because if not, that's appropriation and racism, bitch. No. But all these things, right? Like,
I'm not afraid of women.
I'm not afraid of women.
They want to control their bodies? I say go for it.
They want to use IVF to start a family?
I'm not afraid of women. I think that we should have a woman president too. So all these things, right, in a really like cheesy way of trying to depict, like, again, this like manly man, but also like a soft side who supports women in literally the most. Helen Keller produced this. Convince me otherwise. It gets even worse because it's like I cry at movies like Love Actually, and I'm man enough to support women, and I'm sick of men belittling women and talking down to women and trying to control women. Like, that's not what a real man is. This is really, all in all, it brought me back. I was like, I have been transported, unfortunately not in Elon Musk's rocket, to the 7th grade to watch the cheesiest sex ed and or dare video that all the students laugh at and make fun of afterwards, because they're like, what a joke that was. Okay, like, now back to our real lives. Like, that's what they think of us, right? And back to regularly scheduled programming. So the first thing here is I want to acknowledge, yes, that men can and should be both things, but just like Kamala being the first female president, bitch, this ain't it. Okay. I think I love the idea of men being both sensitive and emotional and vulnerable and supportive, and also being powerful and strong and tough and protectors and supporters. Do I need that conveyed by this man being like, I can lift 500 and braid the shit out of my daughter's hair? Like, I'm sure anyone would be like, okay, like, yes, I'm like a tough ass dad. And also I will be there to support my daughter at her ballet recitals and tie her shoes if needed and kiss her on the cheek and read her a bedtime story at night. But who's like, I braid the shit out of that hair? Oh yeah. Like, what? Like, cheese ball. Honestly, cheese ball. Did you get the union of soap operas to come together and put their brains together and create this travesty? Like, what is this? Secondly is the idea that men, and somebody struck up this debate argument with me recently, which is, I think people want to vote for Kamala just because they want to show that they're not afraid of a female in charge and in power and running the free world, like have the first female president, And I think sadly, and honestly, she and her campaign are at fault for pandering this so much, but the idea of, people are just, they can't, like, especially men, like, they can't have a woman in power. Like, they're afraid of women and they just don't want that, right? They just want to control them and have power over them and put them down. So, like, I think that people want to do it, just want to vote for her and her to win just to have the first female president. To which I say, bullshit. That is complete and utter hogwash, right? And it's too bad that, as cheesy as this is and how much it misses the mark, it's sort of conveying that, like, that idea that men are busy getting off and jerking off to each other in their own power, that God forbid we see a woman in power, right? Again, I'm a woman and I can say this. I would love nothing more than to see a boss ass bitch in power running the show. And this rambling, double standard hypocrite ain't it. this lady changing her ideas and her principles like the wind. Like it's literally Pocahontas. And is that off color, pun intended? I don't know. I don't even, not like to pull a Trump, but it's like, this, that, she's all the races, all the colors of the wind. So, whatever, that'll be what it is. Further off of that point, the sad thing about this that I started the whole video with, you guys, is that this truly shows you what you call them, liberals, Democrats, Kamala and her camp on the left, the mainstream. The sad part is this shows you exactly what they think of men and how they think that men think. That's truly what they think of men, or the majority of men in this country. If you want a dose of that, they exist. Like, go ahead and take a trip on the whatever podcast. But bitch, like, I spared you that experience, so you're welcome. Like, you don't have to. I took one for the team. That's a small pool of men, but that's certainly not all men, right? And it shows you that they think that men are this fragile and weak and insecure and women hating, thus the whole pandering and perpetual, toxic masculinity that we're hearing every other day from politics, entertainment, Hollywood media, right? And I would argue that most men are not like that. Most men are going to, respect women who are badass bitches and who have authority and who have that power and control, especially if it's their like spouse. But even if it's somebody or spouse or partner, whatever it is, or someone they love, they're going to protect them. They're going to be like, do not disrespect them. And someone on a public stage like this, right? They're gonna like be like, yes, ma'am. Okay, yep, what she said. Like she runs a show. She's the boss, that idea. So I completely, disagree with that. And sadly, this whole thing has become so contorted and distorted because they've like, again, this just ain't it. Now, if it's somebody who is qualified and a badass and a ruler and a leader and ain't taking no shit and is a ball buster, that's one thing. But again, this ain't it. So the sad thing is they were obviously trying to get into the hearts of men and resonate with men, right? And also sadly show their cards and show in the process inadvertently showed us what they think men are and how they really think in being so toxic, right? But on the bright side, the silver lining of this disaster is, and this waste of ad money, frankly, like this can go to a better cause, is maybe to turn the tables around and show how your view of men who you think are so toxic, maybe that in and of itself is a little toxic. Unfortunately, I'm not talking about the Britney Spears version. Think about it.